Hey everybody, how's it going? We're gonna continue with the Korea trip slideshow. This should be the end of the Korea half, I think, if the timing works out. As you remember, I went to the wedding, and I was pretty full after that wedding. Took some night street food to finish off the night, and then the next day, my auntie, who my mom actually comes from a pretty big family of I believe 9 brothers and sisters, and half of them are in the States, pretty close to where my parents live, but the other half still lives in Korea. And I did meet her in, remember the big feast on that table back in the day. uh, I did meet her once, but she wanted to meet me again, and she had some stuff to drop off too as well. So we met up for lunch, and we went to this mall. And usually I have a good impression of mall, at least in Japan, at least, right? Like, malls usually have pretty good restaurants on the top floors of their the mall centers, and pretty good food. And so we tried out this North Korean style naengmyeon place. And personally, I really like bibimbap, which is usually, sometimes it also has the liquid, but usually doesn't have the liquid, but instead it just puts a big wall of a sweet gochujang spicy sauce in there. And I just love the flavor of the noodles, the spicy sauce. Now, of course, one thing I absolutely hate, the most hated thing in the world, is cucumber. But thankfully, no, I don't think I remember to say that. But on top of that, we got some mandu, which, of course, if it's a side dish, I'm almost certainly gonna get that with anything I eat. But yeah, no, I did forget to say no cucumbers. But you see on the left, that's some slices of pear. You got a nice egg. You got some slices of meat there, pork. And of course, you ask them to cut it up too, so that's easier to eat. But unfortunately, the flavor of everything, honestly, the mandu, the naengmyeon, was just not great. And so this is actually the only miss. Spoiler alert, but this is the only thing that I did not enjoy on my trip out there in Japan and Korea combined. So, I mean, I guess I should be thankful that I only had one miss in the 1.5 weeks I was out there. But this, unfortunately, was just not good at all. And I've heard a lot of things that North Korean style of food is actually pretty good. There's actually a North Korean place near my parents' place that we go to all the time that has really solid food. But unfortunately, this was just a miss. So don't worry about this place, about going here. This is a clear stay away from this one. But near that was, I believe it was the Namdaemun here, which is the south big gate, protected Korea back in the old days when castles and gates were a thing. And so, since I was nearby, I thought, it's right there. And again, I think I've said it before, but I love the idea of having ancient architecture surrounded by modern architecture, right? I think it's just a lovely reminder of, like, this was how things used to be in the past. We've evolved from that, we've grown from that, and yet that's still gonna be there. And it's amazing to see that. Now, Namdaemun does have an interesting story, because it did get burned down by an arsonist. I want to say within the last 10 years. I don't think it's been more than 10 years, but certainly it's not super recent. But it completely burned down, which of course was terrible to see. Such a historical, significant building to be burned down by an arsonist of all things. So they rebuilt it, restructured, looks great, but unfortunately, and maybe you can't really see it in this picture, but you can get the idea from here. The gate is actually closed on, I believe it was a Monday when I went. So and that's one thing. This also applies to Japan too, is that you really have to be careful about when places have their day off of the week, because there's a lot of places that will just take one day of the week and say, we're just going to be off for this day. Now, obviously, I don't mean like convenience stores or regular grocery areas, but like restaurants, especially, will have one. Usually, we'll have one day of the week where they are going to take the day off. So make sure when you look at those those suggestions for restaurants to go to double check when those takeubis, right? I mean, that's Japanese. I'm not sure what the Korean equivalent of that is, but you gotta be careful of that. It's a bummer when you time that incorrectly. So I didn't get to see it up close, but honestly, got some decent pictures around, and they did have a pretty famous hot dog place nearby. I think my aunt, noticed that the line for this little stall, right? You can see it's just on the corner, unsuspecting, but it was like wrapping around the edge of the sidewalk, like threefold, like once, twice, thrice. Kind of surprising. And after my auntie was talking with the people in line, apparently this place is really popular, or was in a popular show in Japan, and I guess that's how they made a name for themselves. And I mean, let me be honest, like you may have seen my previous hot dog picture, but this was much bigger and much more, it had a nice filling, flavorful filling that was definitely different, and I definitely enjoyed this one a lot. Very cheap too, not even maybe not over $1, but very, very cheap. So nice snack to stave over the not so great lunch. But also, one thing I got was new glasses, because Namdaemun is really famous for cheap glasses. You can go in, and that pair of glasses is basically, and obviously there's no insurance getting covered over there, but that basically was equal to my copay that I would usually get over here in the States, right? Like that, it's amazing to think about. And they made it even thinner than my current pair of glasses, which, if you look at it right now, I'm actually wearing my old pair of glasses because I tried to stick with it for a long time, but there's something about that pair of glasses that constantly is giving me a headache. And I'm not sure why. I'm going to try to talk to my optometrist when I go do my yearly checkup anyway. But there's something off about it, which unfortunate, because it feels like I got a really nice light frame. It's super thin. It feels really nice. So I want to continue to use it, but there's something about it didn't feel right. So I've gone back to my old pair right now. So a little bit of a bummer, but that's not to stave off you from doing this, because they are really friendly to foreigners. Obviously, I got the help with my auntie to help with all the translations and talking with the guy. And of course, the guy we went to, she went to before too, so they have a past relationship as well. So, but like, if you go down the main street of Namdaemun where all the stores are, literally, and this is not an exaggeration, literally every other store is a glasses place. So I'm not sure how you decide which one is good to go to. I'm sure if you look at things online, there's an interesting way to find a good one, but there are a lot of options there. And again, the cheapness, and it's quality. I don't want to say it's cheap quality or it messed up because I'm not wearing it right now. Like, it feels really nice. It's good quality stuff. They made the lens as thin as I've ever seen it. And yes, I have terrible eyesight. So for those of you who have really bad eyesight and have really thick glasses, what it means to really make those glasses thin. But not bad. Anyways, I did some touristy stuff. Now, unfortunately, I totally screwed up the timing going here. I came here like literally the minute they closed entry to folks going in. So that was very unfortunate timing on my part, but wasn't that big of a loss. I just kind of wanted to kill some time before dinner anyway. So, I just looked around a little bit and then noticed that there was a statue of was it Sejong? Really, probably, I mean, my brother knows a lot about like Korean, Japanese history, so he probably smacked me right now for not getting this correct. But he was one of the leaders to make Korea what it is, a nation, right? And so quite a revered person in terms of history. And so I mean, it's a very significant statue. I feel like, the pedestals in there kind of like crowned his achievements there with actual Sejong Daewang. Yeah, right. Like Sejong, I believe, is his name. Daewang is great king. So a pretty cool sight to see, and it is pretty big, in person. So really cool to see. And it's just like, again, it's just in the middle of two just busy streets, right? And then buildings around there. So really cool location for this, in my opinion. Now, I also busted out my Pokemon Go because I thought it'd be interesting to see what was there. And of course, there's a gym there, Rattata and Hisui Voltorb there. And the gym had a Tepig there. Even though it was like a 1-star one, I just decided to do it anyway, and picked that up and renamed him the king there. So he'll be forever known as the Tepig Sejong. Please don't get mad at me. I don't mean to offend anybody there, but I thought that was nice to just grab something there too. And then there was another statue. I believe this was a general. The name fleets me right now, so I can't recall what it was, but I mean, again, just really cool to see that. And eventually killed enough time so that dinner was a possibility, and I went to this nice bulgogi place, and I was thinking about trying to see if I could get some Hanu beef. And Hanu, basically, one of my friends on Facebook was telling me, she noticed I was posting, stats, posts about being in Korea, and I guess Korea I was actually updating in real time. Japan I got a little lazy, but she noticed that I was there, and then she talked about Hanu beef, and basically saying it's like not as fatty as Wagyu, but better than like your standard cuts that you get in the States. So kind of like a halfway in between from what you get at Wagyu. And I got interested, but I guess I was asking for my cousin for suggestions too. This place came up, and this was like literally walking distance from where I was. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to do some travel. That sounds like a good idea. But I guess they only had Hanu bulgogi, which of course is pre-seasoned and all that stuff. But having good solid bulgogi was not a bad thing. So I was happy to get that. And of course, staple of Korean food is all this banchan, right? Like all the stuff you get ahead of time before your food. And that potato salad on the bottom left is like a pumpkin potato salad. That was so good, so good. And then I think my mouth is watering just thinking about this again. Geranmari, just was it steamed egg, and I mean it's just beautiful, just soft, fluffy. Just taking scoopfuls of eggs and eating them. And I also decided to get the double cheese version there. So not only is there normal cheese, but extra cheese on top, because why not, right? Super tasty, super solid, and a great compliment to the bulgogi there. Some places will cook them for you, like when you saw earlier, on the last video when I got the ogyopsal, they cooked that completely for me. I didn't have to do anything. But for the bulgogi here, like pretty straightforward. They let me cook that. I don't know if they let me or they made me cook it. But they just put the sauce on the outside and have the cut green onions, and I don't know if it's a leek or not, but just for extra flavoring there. You cook it on there, you dip it into the sauce, and then you eat it. Ah, so good. And of course, that's what it looks, after a little more time when it's all cooked. Super tasty, super awesome way to finish the last dinner in Korea. And yeah, I mean, I was really happy with that at the end. And then this is my final meal in Korea. This is, of course, at the airport. I, of course, was a little bit concerned because of my screw up with, on the way to the wedding. I definitely didn't want to do that on the way to the airport, and especially since I had luggage too, right? Like that just more panic on me. So, figured the last meal at the airport would be okay. Obviously not ideal. But, when I go to any Korean place, my favorite food is to get the dweji bulgogi, spicy pork. I mean, it's solid. It's pork. You gotta cook it nicely. You get a nice little sweet, spicy sauce on that, and can't go wrong. Also got a pineapple drink, although I missed the fact that it was a zero, so obviously not ideal. Has gakdugi there, my favorite type of kimchi, which is radish based rather than cabbage based. So I mean, all in all, a good meal with some fried gyoza too, or sorry, fried mandu. This is Korea. And yeah, I was happy. Stomach nice and happy. And on the way to Japan, I see that it has one of my favorite shows on there, Kyokorohi, which is great because I didn't really prepare much for the 2-hour flight from Korea to Japan. So I watched this again, and I mean, obviously it's a few months old, but to see my favorite show with my favorite girl here, Saito Kyoko, super happy to see that. And I apologize for my airplane neighbor. I'm pretty sure I caught him sleeping there in the reflection. And then I get the food on the plane, and then I see that this is basically doji bulgogi. I mean, it's obviously not that great, but it's very thin cut pork. But yeah, well, who would have thunk that I would have gotten it the same exact dish on the plane again? So there was kare on the menu for there, but I was like, I'm going to Japan, I'm gonna get the curry all the time I want there, so do I want to do that? And there's a little bit of a fear for me from Korean curry. They tend to be more of the yellowy pasty version versus the dark brown that I really like, that you normally find in Japan. And I just don't like that yellow version of curry that in my mind is synonymous to Korean curry. So that's a little risk. And whenever I go to a Japanese place in the States, always have to look out for if it's a Korean owned one, because if it's Korean owned and I try to get the curry, there's always a chance you're going to get that curry rather than my normal preferred curry. So it's always a gamble there. Always look on Yelp to double check the color. Menus sometimes lie, so you got to be careful about that. But this is the last meal. Well, I don't know whether you want to consider the plane to be my last meal or this one at the airport to be my last meal in Korea. But that basically wraps up Korea. And obviously had a lot of fun, had a lot of good food. I also just really reminded me about how much my Korean has deteriorated, right? Nothing's really changed, because the only thing that's changed, the source of my Korean is of course from my mom. She would talk to me in Korean, and obviously since I'm living on my own, I don't get that constant talking to anymore. And that certainly showed that it was hard to communicate when I could get the ideas in my mind, but usually I'd get blocked by the Japanese, right? Like the Japanese answer would come first, and I'd be like, wait, no, what's the Korean word for doing that? Because like when I made my mistake on the taxi drive, I tried to talk to the taxi driver about the situation I ran into, but it was so difficult. Just trying to form the sentences. The words could come out eventually, but as a coherent sentence, it just wasn't working. So really just showing that you really got to keep that language active and keep using it. So hopefully that that reaches out to you too, for those of you who maybe are gonna have kids, and that's if making sure that you keep your language, your parents' language is alive, passing it down, very important. I'm sad that I'm not perfect in Japanese. I'm sad that my Korean's kind of broken, but it'll be really, for at least for Japanese, for me, that's going to be a priority to make sure that I can keep it alive. And then that's one thing about this channel that I really do enjoy for myself, right? Like I am constantly taking in Japanese and then spitting out English. I may not be speaking Japanese, not the best, but you know, just make sure I'm constantly make sure it's not lost is important for me. So anyways, on that note, we will wrap up the Korea part of the trip. Next up will be Japan. This will probably have a little bit more parts to it because not only is there going to be more food, there's a lot more travel things included. And I'm going to warn you ahead of time, a lot of the travel things are going to be related to Hinatazaka. So, if it convinces you to check them out, that's always good. Got the new magazine for Kyonko here. The 8th single is of course active right now, but you guys probably understand how much of a Hinatazaka fan I am, so getting the opportunity to try a few things that I had on my list was really nice to do. So anyways, look forward to the Japan portion of the trip that will be coming in the next few days. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and if they have any questions about the trip, comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. ENG Monst, I guess there's no reason to talk about the Twitter or the Discord channel here, so we'll skip that for this time. But anyways, thank you for sitting down with me to talk about my Korea part of the trip for another 20 minutes. I do appreciate it. Until next time, bye bye.